Hello, and welcome to another special edition of Monroeville At Your Service. I'm your Municipal Manager, Alex Graziani. We continue celebrating Monroeville's 75th anniversary by revisiting the people, the places, and moments that helped shape this municipality's great history. Today, we're continuing a series of roundtable style shows where, so far, we've had past and present municipal managers and past and present police chiefs sit down with us. We continue this past and present theme today, but this particular group has had the distinction of having to be elected to their position in our local government. Joining me in studio today are on my right, Greg Arasenko and Dr. Nick Resock, and on my left, Dennis Biondo, who's of course our current mayor. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for Yep.
What an exciting year to be able to have the 75th anniversary just happen to coincide with America 250. And thank you again for being a part of this time where we kind of are able to come together and think about the past, celebrate the current, and be excited about the future. So again, thanks. As we start off, it's a really easy question. And just to help introduce yourself to the viewers, I'm kind of curious, always am, because I really admire why people run for office. What would cause them to subject themselves to pothole comments at Giant Eagle or tax comments at church and all that kind of thing. So thinking back, as your introduction to the audience, why did you run for office? What motivated you to want to serve? Greg?
Just about my entire adult life, I've always been in public service. I served the Department of VA. I served our veterans for 25 years.
Of course, you were a veteran.
I was going to say, and I served in the military. And then when I got involved locally here, I was put on the zoning hearing board for 10 years, 4 years on school board. And so, again, I was appointed the mayor in 2008, and it's just more public service, which I enjoyed.
Excellent. Dr. Resock?
Yeah, and initially, whenever I came here, I started my business here in Monroeville, and that's kind of was my path because I was involved with different business organizations and the Chamber of Commerce, and it kind of evolved from there of just, talking to business people, residents that I was working with in my business as well, and there was a seat available for council in the neighborhood that I live in, and I took a shot at it and was on council for 2 terms and left halfway through because this guy had to leave and open up the seat, and that was like the most logical time to run for mayor because I was already sitting as the deputy mayor at the time. Correct. And so it just evolved from there. So initially it was just because I was involved with the community through my business and raising my family here and getting started, and one thing led to another.
Excellent. Dennis?
Yeah, so my family has been involved in local government. My dad is an assistant county solicitor. He's also the solicitor of Castle Shannon Borough. So it's kind of natural for me to be involved in local government. I served on the planning commission. I actually was asked to run for the 7th ward council seat by Mayor Greasock over here, who also encouraged me to run for mayor because he said, my time's coming up. And I had conversations about him. Do you know who's going to run? Is anybody going to come after you? We're really going to miss you. And then one day he just said, why don't you do it? And I just decided I'd step up and take over. He left me in a great place, so I said yes. So
you both have mentioned it now. Within the home rule framework, we're term limited, both on council and in mayor, 2 4-year terms. So is 8 years enough, or just enough, or too long?
Well, it depends on how you
haven't had yours yet. So.
It depends on how you look at it. For all the things that we deal, now there are great things that we deal with as being a mayor, an elected official, and there are also things that maybe you don't want to deal with. Even Dennis early on, even as a council person, already understands this, and Greg certainly does. So on one hand, you could say 8 years is plenty. However, it is definitely a learning curve initially. To get up to speed. And this is a large municipality. I mean, we're 20 square miles, all the things we do here, how big the budget is, all the different departments. And it takes a while to really learn some of that. 2 terms, maybe a 3-term, very much like how the county executive's office is. I think that would be probably a little bit more reasonable because you're still getting your feet wet the first. Greg, what do you think? first 2 years, or?
First 2 years, I think, is your big learning curve. And then, obviously, as you said, Nick, as time goes on, you get hit with different issues, and that's maybe a learning curve. So I think it's all the way through. But I agree with Nick. I could have done another term and would have had no issue with it. But Home Rule Charter says no, and here we are.
Overall, I definitely think term limits in general are good. To some degree, whatever
But
that
it should
time
have
frame
been
is, there
three.
should be.
Should have been
But
three
maybe an extra one
terms.
would be.
And there's the thing, like, you hear the term institutional knowledge, and I mean, that's kind of where I would say that Monroeville is a little handicapped because our council people are also term limited to 2 terms. So you do have that turnover that's constant. And like when I came on, we had 4 new people. So we had, I was the 7th ward council person. So we had 1, 3, 5, and 7, all were up at the same time, all brand new people coming in. We only had really 2 people that had been there for longer than 2 years at that current time. And those are Bob Williams and Eric Poach, who will be termed out after next year. So I mean, I think I agree. 3 terms would be I think it would be beneficial to have an extra term for the council people and the mayor as well.
What's interesting is, and I think a couple, and it might be the experience of all 3 of you, you served on planning commission, on zoning hearing board, and I think that starts to give you the introduction to local government, particularly because planning and community development are right in our DNA. Just look out on the corridors and the activity within this community. It's a bustling, hustling town.
I felt very comfortable when I got appointed because of my background. And Nick, you spent all those years as the deputy mayor. How did you feel when you took over?
Yeah, really, whether I was coming in, and most people, certainly no one in this table has, well, whether you got your appointment, but you were already with the zoning hearing board, but to have some kind of time on the dais, whether it is with one of the boards or commissions or a council seat, something to kind of get going with it. But I was certainly comfortable with being in the mayor's seat after being, running a few meetings as the deputy mayor. And Dennis, you're probably still, your first couple, it's definitely different. I mean, even though you're up there and you know how meetings run, you know how agendas run and everything, it's definitely different whenever you move over a couple seats to that main chair.
It certainly is. I mean, I frankly, I try to mimic you as best I can in some respects.
Channeling his inner Dr. Research.
That's right. But it's different in that role, and it's different because you're dealing with me coming in. I hadn't dealt with the businesses as much as I think Mr. Arasenko and Dr. Grisak had. So that's kind of one thing that people don't see, is you are dealing with really the community at large. I mean, I was kind of stuck in my 7th ward council seat, dealing with Garden City stuff, and there was a lot of stuff going on those first 4 years. Now, you're kind of broadening it as you are elevated to that mayoral position, and that's one of the things that's really I don't know that I would say it's a challenge, but unexpected. That was kind of unexpected that I've kind of run into in the first 6 months. So,
well, challenge is good too.
Challenge is good.
And speaking of that 6 months, for you two, you served the 2 terms. And of course, all of you, as a lifetime resident of Monroeville, what changes have you seen Monroeville over the years? When you think about kind of the Monroeville before you served and Monroeville while you served, what were the things that you felt this community's changing and how it's changing?
For me, I've been a resident of Monroeville just under 40 years, so, I'm a transplant. But I first got on zoning in about 1996. And Monroeville was doing extremely well. And even our school district was a blue ribbon school. Things started to slide down. When I got appointed in office, 2008, I'm sure you all remember, the economy was pretty tough, nationally and locally. Matter of fact, our fund balance wasn't too good at that time. So for me, I think what I had to do is work with that current council, which did change when I actually had to run for office. But we started really looking at our businesses. Our tax office really kicked it in gear because if you remember, because it was so bad in '08, a lot of people got behind, businesses got behind on taxes and even some residents. And so, thank God the tax office kicked it in gear. We started trying to clean up some of that. We really helped everybody that we could, no matter if it was a business or a resident. But the idea is things started getting better. And so for me, I think the biggest change is that during my first term, we started paying as we go. We weren't running any more bond debt up, which I think was fabulous. And when Nick was on council, you guys were great to work with on that. And I'm sure, and I'm understanding is that's continued today, where we have no debt at all.
This year we made our final payment on the bonds that we had owed, and it is we haven't been able to determine when, but we think at least until the 70s, if not the 60s, the community had debt. Now, to be fair, when you're a growing community, sometimes you have to take out debt just to keep up with the roads and the infrastructure, building new buildings like in the school district, or building new buildings for us like Public Works or Parks and Rec. But you guys kind of experienced, particularly you, the maturing of from the 90s to the 2000s. It's sort of like all the growth of decades of post-World War II expansion and suburbanization, kind of like steady state, and we're in that holding pattern, where we're not adding a lot of population, a lot of housing units, but not a lot of population. We're new businesses, but so forth. So you kind of, then you can back off from the debt. And that's really the philosophy since almost 20 years now.
Oh, yeah. Well, go ahead, Nick. What I was going to say is for the future, if we stay on this course, I think we need to advertise how wonderful it is to live in Monroeville. Now, I don't know if we're doing that as much as we should, but I think we really should do that. You figure we have almost 1,000 acres of recreation land, for our parks. We have a healthy business. Now, we have some issues with that, but with the new facility coming into the mall, I think we're going to see a lot of growth.
Yeah, and to get back to your question about the changes, and you touched on this, is really and this is more of a national trend with online shopping, so the impact of brick and mortar stores where, that has changed over the past, 10, 15 years. Now, certainly, Miracle Mile is doing very well. We have the announcement at the mall for Walmart and the redevelopment that potentially is going to be happening there. But since then, over the years, we have seen a huge growth in our healthcare sector. AHN Forbes Regional, they're doing incredible things, and they're a very large employer here in Monroeville. UPMC has a huge presence with UPMC East. That's all been happening here. So we have more of that medicine and education things that are happening out here. BPMI is really growing out in this area, and that's going to be great. So it's getting to that transition of that brick and mortar and stores and trying to still be competitive in that market. And I still think national retailers are still trying to figure this out. As far as
office spaces, those are both a challenge with the remote work that was introduced with COVID. That's just so radically changed, office space rentals.
Yeah.
And I will say that I think that one of the things that's changed is the way we communicate. And I think Mr. Arasinka brings up a good point. We do need to sell ourselves. And I will, and I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back here, but I set up a mayor account on both Facebook and on Instagram. I know Alex and our communications team with Eli and Jared and Zach have done a lot to try to promote Monroeville on social media, because that's the way we're consuming. That's the way our residents consume the news, consume their find out what's going on as they use social media. And I think we've done a great job with that at the end of your term, and now moving on into these first 6 months of mine here.
But let me just throw something out, what Nick talked about, the brick and mortar stores. If you've seen the national trend now, the young guys and gals, what do they call them, Gen Zers, or what are they called?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Gen Z.
Yeah. They're now going back to the brick and mortar stores more now than in the last several years, which is good. And on the other hand, Monroeville on the move, you know, Alex, you can certainly bring in various people and help Monroeville. Healthcare, businesses, certainly get the mayor on there and he can rah-rah-ree it up, which we should be always doing, because we have a great community.
It reminds me, though, that location, right? What made Monroeville great? You know, the interstates, the turnpike, the parkways, Route 22, Northern Pike way back when, but all of those coming together gives us a great location. And you mentioned, you know, like Bechtel, I mean, they're adding 1,100 jobs to Monroeville. In 2027 or 2029, they're going to be out at the old Westinghouse. Forbes Hospital is investing about $100 million in not only their physical plant, but services that we'll all benefit from and will continue to be a draw into our area. And I can go on and on about some of those things. So I really get excited about that location. What we've got to do is continue to be a quality community worth investing in. And each of you had to think about that as mayors, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and that's absolutely one of the things that all three of us has been on. I'm in a unique situation with the people at the table here that, you know, I served as a council member with Greg as well when he was mayor. I was mayor. He served as a council member while I was mayor. Our current mayor was a council person, so, you know, I've worked with both these guys in different capacities, and us three and the councils we work with were always really set on the services and the amenities that we control, the municipality controls, because we can talk about these national trends and these changes, but the foundational things that we can control as a municipality are very important. And those are, Greg mentioned the parks, our senior center, our library, our public works department, what we do for public safety, from our garbage collection, all the little things that we can control to make this, as you mentioned, a place where people want to move to and people want to locate businesses in. We talk about, you know, areas that are the different generations, the younger folks that maybe they want to live closer to the city. You know, eventually as they get older, as they have kids, that it's kind of tough to raise a family in an apartment or a condo. You know, eventually they want to have the quarter-acre lot and a little more room and a safe place to be and a close location to the city and affordable housing. And I think it's something we offer you.
The one thing we failed, and that's my fault and your fault, Nick, is our convention center. That really brings a lot of nice revenue in.
Absolutely.
For all our businesses. And it also gives residents that do go there, I should say visitors, it's a great place to be.
So the challenge was there was an announcement by Oxford to have the convention center cease being the convention center as we know it and become a Hobby Lobby store. And so maybe that's the criticism was we didn't realize that was coming or couldn't foresee that coming. But, you know, I go back to Nick's leadership when I was interviewed in 2023. Certainly that was not on anyone's radar, you know, and we're a month into my working here in January 2024, and we get that announcement from Oxford. But Sean Logan, Dr. Griesach, the council that was present, all the business owners, just really rallied together. And I remember early on thinking, we don't buy conventions. Municipal governments do not buy convention centers. We do garbage service. We provide police. We do great parks. Convention centers are a little out of our wheelhouse. I don't think in 2,300 local governments in Pennsylvania, anyone else is owning a convention center. They might have an authority that owns one, but by themselves, this council with this mayor buys it without like flinching.
Our state leaders did.
Yeah,
our state leaders had a lot. Look,
Yes.
the mayor did a tremendous job with that. I mean, that was.
But it was a
huge
huge team of people.
It was.
We had a lot of help.
But to the resident and the people on the street, they supported it, and they were impressed. They were very glad that the convention center was able to remain. And it was like visceral. People were like, thank you to the state.
Yeah, the state leaders did a wonderful job
county
helping us as well.
Assistants.
With that. Yeah.
No, it was an easy decision, easy pitch. I mean, whenever you're on council or whenever you're in a mayor's position, there's a lot of issues that you kind of see both sides, or you make a decision and you get 51% of people happy, 49 unhappy. This was definitely an issue where the overwhelming majority of people.
Did that surprise you?
It didn't, but it just made the job easier as far as being such an advocate for it. We certainly understood it from our standpoint. That's what happens too a lot of times. There's a lot of information that we know, and we're making our decisions based on that information, where maybe the residents don't have all that information, or maybe they're bringing up points that really are not pertinent to the decision. This was one where everyone was behind this, and that really makes it easier to advocate for something that where the entire community is behind, whether it's the residents or the business community and the local leadership as well.
And it goes back to the 2008 crisis of the financial markets, and you mentioning the commitment to not incur new debt. What happened is, you mentioned the fund balance. It may have been only a few percentage of what the annual budget was. And in local government and nonprofits, you want to start the year with 15%, maybe 20% of what you need that year in the bank as fund balance. And your stewardship, we ended up in 2024 having a fund balance where we didn't have to take out a loan to buy the convention center, which was remarkable.
Yes.
That kind of stewardship was able to be maintained, and that discipline to actually be able to pull that off. That's really remarkable.
And the arrangement works out. I mean, we are getting paid back. The taxpayers are getting paid back through the proceeds of it. And yeah, it's a generous payment plan for the Convention Visitors Bureau, but the money is more about what comes into the community because of those shows.
But we need to, and this is what we're doing, is think differently, right? Because if our eggs are in a basket of tourism, whether it's sports tourism and recreation tourism or conventions, we need heads in beds, hotels full, and restaurants busy, right? So we have to constantly be thinking on those services, like you said, Dr. Griesbach, that we control, that we do those well, that our police are making sure everybody feels great and safe here, our public works, making sure the physical plant looks clean here on the roads we control. Of course, not all the roads are ours. Please, if you have a pothole in a state route, make sure you contact PennDOT about that. You can let us know, and we'll let PennDOT know. But some of the roads aren't ours. But the ones that are ours, we have to continue to make sure they're well maintained. So, what challenges did you see there as you got into the budget weeds as mayor?
On the road stuff, again, I'll go back to '08. We were way behind and on keeping up because of the lack of money. And again, we were trying not to go in debt. So I think it took us, Nick, would you say about a good 6-7 years to really get up to where?
Probably, yeah, because there was a time where Monroeville was borrowing money to fix the roads, which is not a best practice whatsoever. So to make the decision of, let's not borrow money for that particular infrastructure change, so let's try to find ways to do it more economically. And I think our road and building department with under Paul Hugas, they figured a way to take care of the roads, to lengthen the life of them with some of the different, the paving program that we've established. Well, people don't realize how much it costs to actually mill and pave a road. I'm sure it's probably well over $300,000 a mile at this point.
I think it's way more than that, isn't it?
$320 to $350 for a mile, which is an unbelievable amount of money. So there were some unique kind of things that maybe, some preservation techniques we brought in to try to stretch the dollar a little bit more to help the roads.
And the one thing that you failed to mention, and so did I, we were catching hell from the residents, and we should have, because we were behind. But we kept telling them, and I think the communication is huge for the public, our residents. This is going to get better. It's going to take time. And look where we're at today.
And I think from my perspective, it's more of a budgetary perspective. It's really inflation has caused all these prices to rise. I mean, everything just costs more than it did, 5 years ago. When I just remember the first year I started, I think it was 2021, maybe 22. We didn't know what the cost of gas was going to be. So all those trucks you see that are out on the road, and then the police cars that we have out on the road, gas prices had spiked, and I think they're even higher now. But we didn't know what it was. So we had Josie and our finance team, making these estimates, conservative estimates. We ended up not spending as much as we thought we were going to have to on gas. And even now, we just passed our our road program. And Mr. Hugus gets up and says, we still have some left in the budget, but don't count on that being there because we don't know what the price of gas is going to be like. We don't know what the indexes are going to look like in the next 6 months. So I mean, it's really just like you're kind of at the whims of the national economy in a lot of respects as to how much you're going to be spending on your roads and on
everything.
On
really,
everything.
It impacts everything that we do. Municipal.
Well, as we've covered some of the budget, and I love that you mentioned the importance of communication, that wraps up our first segment of our conversation. And in our next segment, we're going to be talking about kind of where we're going and some of the things to look forward to here in Monroeville. So stay with us, guys. I hope you can do that, and we'll continue with our show.
Hello, everyone. I'm grateful for the opportunity to join you virtually as Monroeville celebrates its 75th anniversary. And I want to start by congratulating the residents and families, local leaders, and everyone who has helped build and strengthen this community over the past 7.5 decades. Monroeville represents so much of what makes Pennsylvania special. It's a community built by hardworking people who believe in family, opportunity, and service to others. People who've invested in their neighborhoods, supported local businesses, built strong schools and churches, and created a place generations of families are proud to call home. It's not just about looking back at the history of the convention center or businesses that built this town. It's about the people. It's about the neighbors who look out for one another and the local leaders who are shaping a bright future. The truth is, the story of Monroeville has always been one of renewal, of rising to meet the challenges of each new decade. There's no reason why the next 75 years can't be even more historic than the last. And over the years, this community has grown and evolved while still holding on to the values that made it strong in the first place: hard work, responsibility, and looking out for one another. As someone who cares deeply about the future of Pennsylvania, I'm optimistic about what lies ahead for the great community of Monroeville. The people here understand that strong communities don't happen by accident. They're built by citizens who stay engaged, local leaders who step up to serve, first responders who keep people safe, educators who invest in the next generation, and families who continue to believe in the promise of this community. The spirit is alive and well today. And as Monroeville celebrates this important milestone, it's also an opportunity to look forward to the next generation of families and workers, entrepreneurs, and community leaders who will continue to shape its bright future. So today is about more than celebrating an anniversary. It's about honoring the people who built this community, the values that continue to sustain it, and the bright future that lies ahead. Congratulations again on 75 years, and thank you for everything you're doing to keep Monroeville strong for generations to come.
Welcome to Monroeville's National Night Out. This event is all about bringing together Monroeville's first responders and the community that they serve to help build relationships and have a good time. Let's go talk to people to see what they think about it.
We always come every year. I like to get to know our officers and the firemen in our community, knowing the people who take care of us.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I just like getting out and knowing about the community and who's out there protecting us.
I think it's a good time for the community to interact with the police and the firemen, where it's not an emergency type situation. They're seeing them as real people. The officers here get to catch football with the kids, and they have the bubbles and a dunk tank this year. A lot of different things to see these different people that work for the borough as people.
Really just unites people. That's one of the big things, is just get everybody and anybody out here to come together to have fun and to just meet different types of people, different walks of life, everything else like that.
I mean, it's the people. We've got 2 helicopters already tonight. We have all our first responders. We have public works employees involved. We've got great police officers who are willing to be good sports. Yeah, and the businesses who support this are incredible.
Another successful National Night Out in the books. A lot of people came and had so much fun, and we will be doing it again next year, first Tuesday of August. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to the show. Our Mayor's Roundtable continues with Dennis Biondo, Dr. Griesach, and Greg Aronsenko. Thank you for being here. Other past mayors, of course, are alive and well. However, like our former mayor and Pennsylvania State Senator Sean Logan are unable to join us. Sean, of course, is busy as the president and CEO of the Monroeville Chamber of Commerce, as well as Visit Monroeville, and he stays very active with the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. But guys, thank you for being here. As we continue our discussion, the state of Monroeville today, how do you see it? Where are you at, and what gets you excited about our present?
Well, I got it left in a good place for me. The convention center issue occurred. We talked about it a little bit before. Occurred, what was that? The beginning of your term, like about 2 years into mine. About 2 years into my term, my first term on council. As I said before, the Mayor Griesach did a great job handling that situation. I got it left in a great place. I think we said, we made our last debt payment. I think everything's going, swimmingly, to put it lightly. We do have the Monroeville Mall. That's one of the big issues that I know that a lot of the residents that I spoke with while I was campaigning for mayor wanted to hear about, and that is a great opportunity that we have. I'm very excited about it. I do think it's going to breathe a lot of life back into that part of Monroeville and really in the business community in general. I think I got it left in a great place, and I'm very happy and looking forward to the future.
Excellent.
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier, the things that we can control in the municipality are all the services we provide and the foundational things that make this a great place. Because there's always going to be challenges, and over the past 75 years, there's great things that happen, there's difficult things that happen. There are things that happen that are out of our control, there are national trends that happen, there are tragedies that happen. So all these things, there's global pandemics that happen. So all these things you can't control, but the things we can control are the things that we do provide here, and we do an incredible job at that, from our council that supports management, which supports our department heads and all of our employees that provide the services here that we provide. So there's some very positive things happening as long as we can maintain those things. The mall moves forward on its redevelopment. The Miracle Mile continues to thrive, and some of our bigger companies stay here, and I think that's a very positive place to be in. But we're not isolated from the challenges that every other community in America, faces.
Yeah.
Everything that Nick said, and obviously the mayor, I agree with. But I think one of the other things we forgot to talk about is our fire and EMS. Let me tell you, and I know our residents, I don't know if they appreciate how good it is and how cheap it is. If we would open up one full time, you remember that, Nick, when we went through that? One full time with just minimum staffing would be about $6 to $7 million a year. I don't think we can afford that. Mm-hmm. If you look at all 5 fire departments, and we have, 8 or 9 advanced life support ambulances, and we have great staff, very well trained, educated, if you will, in emergency medicine. We spend about maybe $1 to $2 million a year in that range. Is that about right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Where we're at, it was about $1 million when I was in office, and I think same with you, pretty much. It might have went up a little bit, but we have a great future ahead of us. We really do, and again, with your leadership, with the employees and the department heads, I think it just gets better. With good leadership that you're bringing and good counsel, if you keep the employees reasonable and your department heads, which I think you're doing a good job, I think Monroeville's just going to continue to grow. And I think, Dennis, you hit it right on the head. With the new facility going into the mall, I think it's going to grow, not just business-wise, resident-wise. I think we'll see a little bump up on that as well. So it's a great time to live in Monroeville.
I'm glad you brought up the fire EMS because there's such an opportunity and to continue to be great. What the genius of Monroeville Fire EMS is this. For years, it's provided like real city opportunity to get experience, to get training. You know, nobody goes out on a truck for a fire call without lots of hours of invested training. But because we have the live-in program and we've done the hybrid program where we have the paid EMS embedded into the fire stations, it helps keeps the lights on, it helps keeps some sort of revenue stream into those, which supports equipment and training purchases. And it's like really interesting to see and kind of fun how many professional firefighters everywhere from like Phoenix to wherever, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., New York, or whatever, that were Monroeville guys, Pittsburgh firefighters who are trained professionals. And Bob Williams will say it a couple times a year, if not once a month. You know, it's a great way if you're interested in emergency management and you're a young person going to college, you can stay at our fire stations for free. You know, as long as you commit while you're there and you're not in school, you know, jump out on a call and help serve. And that experience that you'll get is as good as the education you might be paying for at school, which could lead to a career in emergency services. No other place does that. And the reason that's exciting is that while most of the state of Pennsylvania, where the reliance is on volunteer fire departments, they're unable to make the call because they don't have that kind of synergy, opportunity of EMS fire embedded together, the live-in program that kind of fuels that. So if you're a young person watches this today, or if you know of young people, let them know of the opportunity the volunteer Monroeville will lead if they're interested to a great career, whether it's even as a nurse or a doctor. They can start by getting their teeth cut here and their feet wet, so to speak, by volunteering here in Monroeville.
Well, just to add on to that, and I'm sure our chiefs could give you more information, but we've had many of the youngsters that did do that, and they've gone into other careers throughout the country as firemen or EMS, because we do have a great training program here. Just a suggestion, Alex. You should do a program with maybe one or two of the chiefs and put that out there. We have a great program if you're interested in emergency medicine, and go over all the details, what benefits they would reap from it, as well as their education.
All you need to do is look at our diosphere here during the meeting. The solicitor, firefighter, fire chief, the police chief, former volunteer firefighter EMS, council member, volunteer EMS, volunteer firefighter. I'm going on. And there are all kinds of professions. The experience you'll learn or gain by being a part of a well-trained unit and involved in emergencies will lead to a lot of things. So I'm glad you brought that up, Greg, because I think a lot of people don't realize to make a great community, we need all of those things. We need people who volunteer. We need great public servants who are employed for full time. And we need mayors. And what's interesting to me, at least when I try to explain my job and your job, many people think you guys are full-time pay or full-time work, sort of like Corey O'Connor is, the mayor of the city of Pittsburgh, the big city mayors, that's what, when you're mayor of Monroeville, you're like the same thing. Is that how it works here?
Not at all. Not at all.
Not even close.
It's funny when people, when you're running, I'm sure you guys got the same question everybody asked. Are you going to quit your job? Are you going to be able to do? I'm an attorney for the county. He said, "Are you going to quit your job? What are you going to do? Who's going to get all the stuff you do?" I was like, "No. I can't survive off of what you get paid down there. We don't have a full-time job. We rely on Alex and the administration and the department heads. And we have great department heads here in Monroeville. They really do a tremendous job. But we are reliant on you guys. Myself and Dr. Griesach have our own. This is a full-time job, but our other full-time job that we support our families with, it's. We do it because we like it. I think. I enjoy it. I like being part of the community, I love it.
Yeah, it's all about being involved and staying involved. And yeah, there's a small stipend which will cover your cell phone bill. That's about it for the month. most people, you're right. People think that it's a full-time, like, career salary job, and it's not. It's a balance. So it's pretty close to a volunteer job, but you do it. I did it just like the mayor mentioned, and I'm sure Greg as well. You do because you want to be involved in the community, and that's what this community really relies on, is people that want to be involved. And we have so many different opportunities, whether it is through our different boards and commissions through the municipality. We have so many. There's the Chamber of Commerce, where people get involved with things. We have Rotary, we have all these different organizations that everyone kind of chips in and stays involved, and that's what really maybe runs the community is the people that make it happen. And as you mentioned about trying to get people to get involved with our fire and EMS, we should try to talk about getting people involved with their local government, their community, and getting involved to some capacity. Because there's so many different ways to do it. You don't have to be full-time committed to everything. There's things that meet like on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. There's committees that come and go based on the season, like 4th of July parade, things of that nature. So there's a lot of ways that for people to get involved, and we really depend on that to keep the community moving forward.
I was in a little different situation. I was already retired. Okay, so if the residents remember, and I know, Nick, you know that, I spent just about full time here, and I had that little office where the
assistant manager is.
Yeah, and I kept it open for the residents. They didn't need an appointment. If I'd see somebody yelling at the front desk, I'd bring them in and sit them down, try to calm them down. But I agree. These guys have careers. They have to take care of their family. I was fortunate.
If you see a little smile or smirk on my face, all right, we have 7 council members and a mayor. Some of them work full-time, and some of them are retired. So I can tell you as manager, it's a little different. I can appreciate what you're saying. Some sort of have office hours, let's say a little informally. And it's kind of cute, but they can put more time in it. Quite frankly, as volunteers,
well, I enjoyed
you've got
that
to give back. Whereas you had to work around all your patients and keep food on the table by keeping the business moving. Yeah,
I always looked at the local government as a board. So we're a board of directors. That's the council members. The mayor happens to be the chairman of that board. We hire a CEO, which would be the manager, and then the tree goes from there. So, it's always a challenge to make that all work.
So we like to joke when Sean Logan is making introductions for you all of who's the best mayor. Of course, Sean was mayor here for 2 terms before he became state senator, and he likes to say, well, I'd like to introduce the second best mayor. And it's always going to be hard for me, Nick, to not refer you as the best mayor because you were a part of my hiring, and I appreciate that because I think the attitude that the council has been very much a blessing for me, which is let the manager manage and kind of like, we'll keep him, in line, but let him do his job. And I really appreciate that. That has enabled me to serve, I think, well, and hopefully continue to serve well. But I always give credit. He'll always, I know it's going to be tough, but it's always in my heart be the best mayor because he let me come here.
And since
but
Sean
you were
always,
part of that because you hired me.
And since Sean always makes that joke, since he's not here, we'll say he's the 4th best mayor, right? We can say that.
Sorry, Sean.
Sorry,
that's the way it is.
So, thinking about your service as mayor, is there a particular moment? It could have been a crisis issue or a very fun issue that stands out to you as your service as mayor. Something maybe you're particularly proud of or you'll never forget.
I'm going to let these guys go first because I've only been on the job 6 months here, so.
Well, we talked about, and I don't want to keep bringing it, but the convention center was a huge thing, and I'm very proud of during my term. And like I said, we had a lot of people working at that helped support that. Dennis was involved on council, and all of our Representative Markozik, Senator Piscatano, leadership of the county. The 4th best mayor, Sean, was very much involved with that. Sean Logan through the Convention Visitors Bureau and Amanda Settlemeyer on the board of Visit Monroe. There are so many people involved. So that was a really great thing to be involved with, and it turned out great for the municipality. And that's something I'm probably my most proudest moment during my term.
During my 10-year term as mayor, there was many, wonderful things that happened. But what stands out for me, and I'll probably remember it forever, as many of the residents will, my first term, we kind of had some tough times with council and, removal of key employees like our chief and some other key employees. And the good news is that the residents stuck with me as the mayor and with some of the council members who certainly supported what we were doing. And the good news is it all worked out. It worked out good for our chief and the other key employees. And I'm sorry I'm bringing up such a bad time, but if you ask me honestly what stands out the most, that was a tough time, and that, how do I forget that?
Well, they're not all great moments. Now, in the end, it's a great, you sort of get through it and you survive. But unfortunately, there's whatever it is, whether it's an outside influence, whether it's an internal influence, whether it's a national thing or an event or a tragedy, that's kind of unfortunately the starting point that occurs that drives leadership, and that's a thing to bring up because we weathered that storm and got through it, and I think we were better because of it.
Well, I think what the lesson learned for me, because I observed it from afar, I was working in local communities while all that was going on, and rightfully so, for a while Monroeville was getting a reputation that it would be a tough place to work. And what ended up happening as a result of some of those key people coming back, and then your leaderships combined of allowing them to perform their duties and get to be success. Well, but that made it appealing to come here because, by the time Tim announced his retirement in 2023, the waters were calm, and that made it a great place for me to want to come to. And this is the best decision of my life to come to Monroeville, quite frankly, from a professional standpoint. I can't think of working anywhere else. But it's because you guys got through that and the hard knocks and the hard lumps and all the things you took to make it through that. But then to figure out the other side, you mentioned the word leadership. That's what the mayor is. The mayor's got to be the person who kind of, at times, when they want to kind of enter the fray, be the more steady, calm voice in the room and try to find a way to the other side. Because however you did what you did, and I can imagine there's a lot more to it, the result is 10 years later, steady waters. An appealing place to kind of want to work at. And I'll go back to you, Mayor, too, because you and I were together. You had 2 officers shot for the first time in Monroeville history. We've been having police officers since back to 1951 and so forth. I think there was one when it came from Patton Township to the borough of Monroeville, and then eventually built up the force over the years. But in the fall of 2023, we had 1 officer shot and a second officer shot in January 2024. Thankfully, they both survived and are back at work and are part of our great, police department. But you knew those guys. In fact, one of them you sort of know very well as a coach.
Yeah. Those are definitely the 2 worst nights of my term, my 8 years. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just what these individuals do for our community, and the risk that's there day in, day out. Those were difficult nights, but I'm glad they're both back and doing well. And
what bravery. They both served well. And Doug Cole, Chief Cole, his leadership through it. I remember I was not even here a day, and he's treating me like I belonged, allowing me to go see Officer McDonald and see that. So it was just tremendous. There's so many good things about this community, but sometimes the good is seen in the hard, right? You have a hard experience like that, and that's where you see, wow, there's a lot of depth and value here.
I forgot to mention one other issue but it's a really good positive one. You all remember the snowfall in 2010.
Snowmageddon. I think they call it Snowmageddon.
Yes. Our employees, along with our fire department, they did such a fantastic job of opening the roads, and I suggested we should help seniors. They even went and did seniors' driveway. We even picked up medicine for seniors that needed it that would never get out. We were also taking doctors and nurses to and from the hospital to as far as we could go, if you remember that. And I thank council for that, and especially the employees. They really stepped up. I mean, almost forgot about mentioning that. That was one of the brightest moments also. I mean, there were several, but that one will stand out with me forever, how well we worked together. mayor, council, and our employees.
I know, it's just as we mentioned, the fire and EMS, it's really about emergency response, what we do as a community, and that is fire, EMS, police, and public works. It's an element that people don't always realize. They all work together, and whether there's a huge storm that happens, whether it's a snow event, we had a huge windstorm power outage that was, not too long ago. Public Works very much involved, clearing roads, clearing trees, making it safe for people. It's really unbelievable what we do with our dispatch center and what we can do here in Monroeville. We're really prepared for most
We have a
events.
great community. I'm just going to say that. Period.
So, for you served as council, obviously, and as mayor a short time. There might not be as many moments, but I'm sure you could think of something that kind of has been memorable to you.
As mayor, as councilman, it was the convention center, which we've already kind of beat to death. As coming on here as mayor, we the big thing that's gone on these first 6 months was the fire agreement. That kind of was, and we did get that in place. And like the gentlemen have already said, how many communities in Pennsylvania have 5 fire companies? I don't know if you can name one other one.
That add volunteer.
Right. 5 volunteer fire companies. We're just so lucky to have that. And like as you guys stated, they work very well with our police, with our public works. We're just tremendously lucky to have them. We just signed a new 5-year agreement with the fire companies, and we're looking forward. Hopefully, I'll get to sign another 5-year agreement in 5 years. So.
As we think about the 75 years, and we think about the big moments in Monroeville, certainly, the opening of the Monroeville Mall was one of the biggest things that ever happened because of it's just defining who and what people thought of Monroeville for decades to come. And both of you have been intimately involved in what is now one of the biggest moments, and that is the what next with the Monroeville Mall. So while we don't know exactly what the picture is going to look like, talk a little bit about what's going on with the planning of the mall.
So the current Cypress Equities is the developer. They are currently trying to buy out some of the leases, some of the bigger retailers, renegotiating, potentially moving them into new spots, and they're kind of stuck on that right now. I do think it's going to look like it's going to be a retail. An area of retail entertainment, with a movie theater, restaurants, those types of things. That's what's going to end up there. What that actually looks like in the end, we don't know. We're also discussing the potential of taking over some of the roads down there. Right now, all those roads that are down there, and I know some of them are in bad shape. Those are all owned by. I'm going to call it a group of businesses that are in that mall circle area. Monroeville does not own those roads. That's one of the things that we've discussed is potentially taking over some of those roads, and we're working through those kinds of things right now.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's an exciting time because they won't be able to submit plans to us until they finalize those lease buyouts and the arrangements of the new businesses coming in. But like the mid-'60s, it's really going to define the next 30 to 40 years. It's the world's largest retailer. Them and Amazon, I guess, are 1 and 2 in the world's largest companies as far as gross revenue goes. And they are committed to Monroeville. For decades they've wanted to get here. Some of you guys experienced some of those elements when they were looking down on Broadway and 148 or 48 and 130 and other thoughts of getting here, but they're committed here. They own the land. They're working through things, and I know the public's very anxious as we are.
So are we.
Because
yeah.
we were hoping before you left to see plans, and we've been hoping all spring to see plans and this summer, and it's imminent. There's going to be something soon to know, and then where do we go from there is exciting because it is an investment in our future. It's an investment in infrastructure. You mentioned the businesses. All of the businesses all the way up to Monroe Boulevard and 22 where the Jaguar dealership is, that road is not our road.
Right.
And all of the businesses along the road contribute to a homeowners association to take care of that, the traffic light, Oxford Drive, and a number of other lanes around the convention center. And that includes us. The convention center pays that. So there's a possibility that those roads do come in our possession. If that happens, we're looking for our state and federal partners to help get those roads up to a very high standard, give them a fresh, clean, wonderful look. Then we'll take them over for perpetuity, and maintenance. But that's all to come. There's a lot to stay tuned for, really. And you're going to have your work cut out for you in the next 7 years trying to navigate that, because it's going to take years to get through all of that. Not only the approval process, but whatever demolition might take place and what it will look like. Meanwhile, we have the investment of Bechtel that we've mentioned earlier, moving into the former Westinghouse facility, another 1,100 high-paying engineering jobs.
It's wonderful.
It is.
We mentioned Forbes, about $100 million of investment, UPMC East and their commitment to our community. There's a lot to be excited about in Monroeville's future, and you guys are a part of that, because you're not going away, are you?
No.
Certainly hope not. I'm the old guy here.
Well, you're involved, and I know as soon as you were done with mayor, you jumped into Visit Monroeville, and people might not understand what their role is related to the convention center. Maybe just take a quick minute, Nick, to help people understand how that works. What's the role? Like, of course, I don't manage the convention center, even though we own it.
Yeah, so the Convention Visitors Bureau is a bureau and a board of directors, and there is a leadership position there. Sean Logan's the president, and they're the ones that get the funding from the state. There's a complicated, very, very complicated equation and process, but they get a portion of the table games, and they also get a certain percentage of the hotel motel tax, and that money comes to that board. So they have a budget every year, and then they're the ones that have now hired a third party that manages and brings in all the shows. So we're kind of the municipality's removed from at this point, the convention center is just owned by the municipality, and then we lease it to the board of the Convention Visitors Bureau, and they are paying the municipality back over time based on a percentage of the revenues at the end of the year. So really, the Convention Visitors Bureau itself, it's a nonprofit. It's not trying to make money whatsoever. What they're trying to do is, let's cover all the costs of operating it. Let's pay for the staff to operate it. Let's bring those shows in, which brings in revenue, brings in people to the community. After all that's all paid off, there's a percentage that will go into a fund which is for major capital improvements at the building. And then there's another percentage that then comes back to the municipality to pay off the loan, if you would, of the building itself.
Residents probably have noticed the success of Visit Monroeville in getting grants. They just had the parking lot completed. That was done with state grant money. The signs that you can see on Oxford Drive are from Route 22. Those are state funds. And things you might not notice, like new roofs, new HVAC. There's been a significant investment from Visit Monroeville since the lease arrangement happened. We took ownership. We leased management of it to Visit Monroeville, who then has another agreement with a private company who manages, make sure there's towels in the bathroom, and so to speak.
And that's the company we've always used,
Yeah.
even before this all went down. There's the same company that Prospera, which would always would run that portion of it, and they do a great job over there. Their employees are great. And, once again, I can't give him enough credit. Sean Logan does an unbelievable job in that position. And with him and Representative Markozik, Senator Piscitano, they've really, as the mayor mentioned about the state funding we've received and the state help we've received, Senator Costa helping out to get those things happen, because it's a very expensive, it's an expensive facility to run, but the upside as far as the economic impact to the region, not just Monroeville, the region, is unbelievable. Not to mention just the recreational opportunity or the leisure, the human service activity of people being able to go to enjoy shows, and it's something for people to do.
And it matters to the taxpayers because of this. When those dollars come to our community and are spent at restaurants and in hotels, those businesses pay taxes, which help keep our local real estate tax a little lower than it might be with all of the bundle of services that we provide. So it's kind of essential. I know it seems challenging at times, but it's good. that people come and use those facilities and keep the place busy, because that's how we can lower kind of the exposure that the individual homeowner might have, with all those services.
Go to a restaurant that's packed with kids with baseball uniforms on a Saturday night or a Sunday night in the summer. I mean, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that you're waiting for a table. It's lowering your taxes. So
Yeah, mayors definitely look at busy restaurants and traffic a lot differently than most people.
That's right.
We want traffic.
Yes.
We want people here. We want restaurants to be full. Whereas someone might say, "Oh, I can't believe I have to wait for a table." Well, mayors look at it a lot differently.
That's right.
Well, we get yelled at about that, but I'm okay with
You
it.
understand the upside.
Oh, yeah, because of the upside.
What's exciting about listening to you guys as we wrap up our session is just the pride that you have. Often when we think about politics or mayors, it's always, against something. You guys are all for something. You're for Monroeville. Listening to you talk makes me want to do more, as an employee here, because you really are proud of your community. You served, because you thought it was something you could give back, and it wasn't easy. I see it. I watch you guys, 2 night meetings a month, and then the other things we do in the in-between. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I just love listening to you guys talk because you get it. And you just want to share that information with folks out here. And we're really happy that you've all joined us for this conversation, because really it's you at home that we're trying our best to serve. And these are just a small sample of the men and the women who have served as elected officials in our community. And I thank you as mayors for being willing, as council members as well, to do what you do. Thank you for taking this time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Amen.
Excellent. Next up on the show, we'll be having our Manager's Minute. We'll be talking about elected officials and their commitment to public service. So stay tuned and don't go away. As you can tell this month, we have a very special edition of Monroeville at Your Service. As a part of Monroeville's 75th anniversary celebration, I am honored to sit down with several of the men who have served as mayor of our community. Public service is often described as a calling. It requires long hours, difficult decisions, and a willingness to place interests of the community above personal convenience. Mayors are elected by their neighbors and entrusted with helping to guide the future of the municipality they love. While each mayor brings a different perspective, every one of them shares common commitment to serving. Their leadership has helped shape the community we enjoy today. Our neighborhoods, our parks, our police department, our businesses, our community events, and the countless decisions that often go unnoticed but make Monroeville a stronger, safer, and a more welcoming community are led by our mayors. In Monroeville, we are guided by a simple, important mission: to protect, support, and enrich the lives of our residents, businesses, organizations, and visitors. Our vision is to be a welcoming community that encourages investment, innovation, and growth while maintaining a high quality of life. Those goals cannot be achieved by any one person. They are accomplished over time through the efforts of many dedicated public servants. That includes the men and women who have been elected to lead this community, past and present. Regardless of political affiliation, policy differences, or the issues of the day, it is important to recognize the sacrifice and commitment required to serve. The strength of our local government depends on citizens who are willing to step up, step forward, and accept responsibility, work on behalf of their community. Today, we thank the mayors who have helped lead Monroeville through periods of growth, challenge, and change. Their service reflects many of the values that define our community: integrity, respect, accountability, stewardship, and a commitment to the public good. On behalf of the municipality of Monroeville, Mayor Biondo, members of council, and our municipal staff, thank you to all who have served before us, those who serve today, and those who will answer the call to serve in the future. For 75 years, Monroeville has been shaped by citizens who are willing to step forward and lead. They have helped build a foundation upon which we continue to grow. Because strong communities are built by people who care enough to get involved, and Monroeville is stronger because they did. I'm Alex Graziani, your Municipal Manager, and this has been your Manager's Minute. I want to thank our mayors, Greg Aroncinco, Nick Griesach, and Dennis Biondo for joining our show today, but more importantly, for their service to this great municipality. Their leadership has been instrumental in shaping the course of Monroeville's present and future. And of course, thank you for watching. Be on the lookout for all of our wonderful video content on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Until next time, stay well and be blessed.